Hi, guys. Welcome to my first episode of Mommy Uncut, the podcast. Wow, I'm really excited and nervous to actually share with you guys this aspect of life. Thank you again for coming back to the channel. For those of you that haven't subscribed, please go back and subscribe. For those of you that already have, thank you so much. Your continued support means everything to me. So today I have a very, very special guest. I am so excited to have one of my longtime best friends since I was in fourth grade. And he's actually going to be interviewing me. I thought it would be cool to have someone actually physically interview me so you guys get to know me a little more in depth, and get things out of me that I normally probably wouldn't just say myself. So without further ado, please introducing the one, the only, Mr. Eric Rodile.
What's poppin'?
Thank you so much for doing this for me. I'm so appreciative of you.
No, you know how it goes. I always got you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be the actual first guest and to really pop this off. I mean, obviously, we've talked a lot about this actually coming to fruition, and here we are. So I don't know if I'm more excited and nervous than even maybe you are, but I'm super happy and glad to be here. So thank you for having us. And, this all kind of started from, we've always, when you lived out here in Cali, foodies, foodie buddies, we go eat.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that comes, a ton of conversations,
Yes.
and a ton of ideas that come about, some come to life and some, we'll chase them in our years to come, in the future.
Right.
But, one of those is, right before, we knew you were moving to Oklahoma, and we knew you weren't going to be in Cali anymore for, some time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we knew, it was like getting near a time of like, damn, these are our last times of really kicking it with Kristine and all of us hanging out together. And, we went and a couple weeks before you moved out to Oklahoma, I hit up the other girls and I was like, hey, it's our last time. What days are you guys available to have a lunch? And, let's just surprise Kristine. And so, of course, with you, I was like, it was just a normal day. We were going to just go have lunch, meet up, and, do our normal thing. But, it ended up by the time you were done and everything, you came down, you saw everybody was there. And it was
Let me chime in on that. So he actually was like, yo, like, what are you doing X day? And I'm like, nothing. He's like, you want to go to lunch? Sure. So I was upstairs getting dressed and I didn't know. You told me you were there and I said, oh, the door's open, so let yourself in. And then I come down and everybody's sitting in the living room.
It's just one of those like step downs, like, wait, what?
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, it was really cool. Go ahead, go on. I'll let you.
Yeah, so
continue.
from there, then that was the surprise there, that we were just all gonna go out to lunch, kind of get our last luncheon as a group of friends. And so we go to this Peruvian spot, and we're there. The food's delicious. It's great. It's just
Frosties.
To call it a hole in the wall is such a bad name, but you guys get what we mean when we mean like it's a hole in the wall. It's not a great big brand name or anything. And so we're eating and we're enjoying our company. And one of our friends, she's a recently new mom as well. And so we're all talking, and we're talking about the struggles of being a mother. I'm a father of 2 kids. And so we're all talking about, the struggles of being a parent and things that go on. And sometimes it's not even a struggle. It's just funny. And it's funny to recant those conversations and those times with your friends and kind of laugh back at them as you're going through parenthood, So we're sitting there and we're talking about all this, and then Shannon, or one of our friends, I'm sure she's cool with us saying her name, so it is what it is. I'm sure she's cool with it. But she's breastfeeding, right? And so obviously we know there's laws and there's all types of stuff that goes into breastfeeding and keeping that sacred between the mother and the child, right? And so it was really a bonding moment between a mother and a child. But we're in the restaurant and we're all eating, and so like anything, it's definitely it definitely gets a little weird when a boob just pops out, and it's just like you trying to keep eye level, and mind you, she's sitting like I think directly in front of me, so now I get it instantly awkward, and I'm like trying to look around. I'm just trying to look at anything other than what's going on in front of me, right? And
Yeah.
and the waiter comes over and he asks if we need anything else, and then he sees what's going on and he kind of does the one of those, and he backs out. And so we're just busting up laughing at that moment of motherhood and being a mother, and the struggles and really the uncut raw stories of being a parent, mother or father. And so that's kind of how this all started. And I was just making a joke of like, yo, this should be a podcast. We should document these conversations that we have because they're so hilarious, especially from the perspective of me being the guy and the girls being the girls in the group. And so that's just a great conversation and some great jokes that come out of that. But really those raw moments that we're talking about as far as motherhood, that's really where Mommy Uncut started. And that's kind of where the idea kind of sprouted. And obviously that's kind of where we're at now. But really, I mean, let's take it back a bit, let's really, dive into who Mommy Uncut is, right?
Right.
Because that's what we're, that's what we're doing. So, at the end of the day, it's great again to have me on here. So I appreciate that. Obviously we go back, and like you mentioned earlier, it's fourth grade. So we're kids, we're elementary kids, and for us to be in the age that we're at and still be friends is obviously still a great thing. But as far as meeting you around fourth grade and, us both growing up in the same city of Downey, what was life kind of like before Downey, before even meeting me, right? Before coming to Downey, what was that like for you?
Well, actually, I always went to Downey schools. My parents actually had bought a home in Downey. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I started school in kindergarten in Downey. My parents divorced, and then shortly after that, we moved in with my grandparents, which was in LA. So my mom would literally drive the opposite way, 45 minutes, to drop me off to school, and then would drive to downtown LA where she worked, just to make sure that I maintained the same friends, and she liked the area and wanted to make sure that I was being, raised in a great area. So that's kind of where it all started. So I did live in LA a good majority of my time, but I spent the most of my time in Downey. From school till after school till I got picked up. So that's kind of how that started until we didn't move back to Downey until I was like 8. And I think that was around the time that we became friends and we were hanging out because we also lived close to each other at that time.
Right.
We used to like ride scooters and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've always whether I lived in Downey or not, I always maintained my life in Downey.
In Downey, got you. And obviously I've seen this firsthand, being around you and your mom. And you kind of touched on it there that your mom wanted to make sure that you sustain the same friendships and were around the same environments instead of switching and moving around. And I mean, it really speaks to the characteristic of your mom, being a single mother, raising you and your brother, and the resilience and, everything that is from, is in her is also in you. So tell me how did that help shape you into, not only the woman you are now, but also the mother you are now, because now you're a mother.
I don't know why I'm getting emotional.
This is normal. This usually happens. Like there's normally like some chips and guac in front of us here when this normally happens. So this is normal for me.
Yeah, I had some earlier. Wow.
Take your time. You're good.
Well, wow. That's a great question. Um, for anybody that knows my mom, it's like I don't even you would understand without me even have to say anything, man. She is a powerhouse. She is somebody that really moves mountains on her own, right? There's nothing impossible for her. And I truly, truly was able to witness that since I was a kid. And she just always was like, instilled that in me, and me being the oldest, she really made sure I was as independent as I could be. That was just in my character already. But she made sure that I knew how to do the littlest of things by myself. And I think those things today really I remember being a kid having to clean and cook and pick up kids and doing these things that your average teenager does not do.
Right.
For the most part.
Your mom for sure got you a car to help do the
Yeah.
errands and the
Side
loading
note, I had a
around the
car at
house.
14, not for my own good, to help her and her chores and the kids. So, but I'm so, so thankful that I went through all that, because now being a mom, it's just equipped me in a way that I just don't know otherwise, So caring for my son, and now pregnant with my second, I think it's just, I have to be honest, I really thought because I went through a portion of that growing up that it would be easier on me, that I'd have, come into motherhood a little step ahead.
More prepared?
More prepared, and that is not the case, because you still don't know.
I'm ready.
I'm ready, and that was not the case. Oh my God. It's a total different story when they're not your kids until they are.
Right.
And she always would tell me, she's like, you'll understand when you have your kids. You'll understand. And I'm just like, ugh, typical.
We all hear that, right? We're
typical
all like,
Latina mom, you wait till you have your own kids. Wait till you have your own kids.
In one ear, out the other.
Dude, and you know what? She's always been right. She's always been right.
Parents are always right, right?
Dude,
don't you hate when that happens? And
yeah. And now that I'm a mom, I'm just so thankful for her,
Right.
her resilience, her ability to never give up, and nothing is an obstacle. There's actually a specific thing that happened that I don't think I've even shared with her, that just said so much about her. And this was I want to say a year or two ago. We're at the grocery store, right? And she's looking for peanut butter, but there's those stands of bread,
yeah,
just off the aisle. They just put in the middle of the aisle, but kind of facing it. But
yeah, a little rack.
Yeah, but it was blocking the peanut butter. Well, she was it was in her way. So she literally got it, picked it up, put it on the side, and started looking back at peanut butter for the brand that she wanted. And I was just I stood back and I looked at her and I was just oh my God, it was not about the fucking peanut butter. It wasn't about the bread. It was the fact that it's just who she is. There's nothing that can stop her. Literally, she will find a way, get it out of her way to get what she wants.
Right.
And that made so much sense to me as to my character too, because
right.
I'm just like that. I will find a way. And right. I'm just so thankful for that, because when you have that ability to not drown in a cup of water and just figure out things and problem solve, it gets you so much further in life. And that's for anything. I mean, something as small as that, So I'm very thankful for her. And I think there's so many stories that I could tell about her that
yeah, right.
me. But right. I think that's that in particular really just set the tone, just solidified everything for me,
Yeah, for sure. No, I think even you just saying it earlier, her the extra work she'd have to do to get you to the school so that it benefited you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
it was extra work for her, but goes to show, what kind of mother she was, and that anything for her is possible, even when people say it's not, so, and so with your mom, obviously I could go so many ways with this, but, I saw you posted, on Instagram the other day, you and your mom, I think that was a picture at your 30th birthday. It was a dope picture. You guys looking behind your shoulder or whatnot, or over your shoulder. Dope picture, right? But your mom is always just as fly, if not flyer than you, right? So tell me, I gotta know, is this like growing up, is this your first fashion icon, is your mom, or
100%? 100%. Everything I am comes from my mom. Like, if you don't know my mom, you see that lady out and you will never, and I mean never, ever see this woman not put together. I mean, to the nines at any given time, like any given time. And that's just who she is. She's always, I mean, I have baby pictures to prove to you that I was her doll and we wore matching outfits. And, I think like she always used to have me in hats. And I think that's why I have a love for hats, and accessories. Like, I was always accessorized. My mom's the girly girl of the girly girl. My mom, you'll never see her in flats. She is always in heels. She's always, like, so I think, at a young age, she's always picked out her outfits, and she's always, so that just kind of came from her. I truthfully, like, my love for fashion is mainly because of her. And then come to find out too, like, my grandma was that too, but I obviously didn't get to witness that side of my grandma because, I mean, I grew up with my grandma, but my grandma was already like older,
Right.
But back in the days, my grandma actually, like, looking back at pictures, she was always like dressed to the nines too. And she had 8 kids.
Wow.
7 living, but 8 total. Okay.
Right.
And my grandma was a seamstress. So she made everyone, like, my mom has 5 brothers. She made everyone's wedding gowns for their weddings. And growing up, they had a manufacturing factory. So my grandma had a factory. So all the kids worked at the factory. So my mom, like, growing up, like, the outfits that I would wear, she would make me. So like the sewing. And then my grandma, growing up after that, after they sold the factory, she became a cosmetologist. So I grew up, my grandma, knowing my grandma's a cosmetologist. So I was always in salons. So I always wanted to do hair and do makeovers and makeup since I was 5 years old. So like, literally my talents and my assets of who I am now come from them, like literally them too. And it made sense to me until, like, I lived with my grandparents not that long, well, years back, because I moved in.
Everything's happened so quick.
Yeah, everything has. We'll get to that point. But I lived with my grandparents. I took care of them. I was their caregiver. And I got to know more and more, even though I grew up with them, living with them at some given point. I got to know more and more stories. And I was like, dang, like, that's why I get my love for this. That's why I get my love for that. And that's why I'm good at this. And that's why I'm good at that. And I'm like, wow, like, literally, like, my grandma and my mom shaped me into my talents and what I like to do.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Right.
Most people don't actually know that.
No, definitely the apple doesn't fall, too far from the tree on that one. So I'm not surprised at all. And as far as love of fashion and things like that, obviously you said, your first was your mom, but thinking back, was there somebody that you just loved everything about that person, that, or was there a certain look, or was there just something that gravitated you and pulled you into the styling world and being in a fashion? And
no, well, I mean, I was 5 years old and I was a Selena fan. I thought I was Selena. I had that same purple outfit that everyone like does for Halloween.
Right.
I had one at 5 years old. And it's funny because Selena was an entertainer, but she was also a fashion designer. So I think
Right.
kind of like, you know, growing up, like all of that kind of shaped me and molded me. But
Right.
I think that my eye for fashion has literally always been there. Like I can put things together in my head before I'm in front. And I would always pick everyone else's outfits before I would even pick out mine. That's just kind of how I've always been. And I've always wanted to do makeovers on people. Not because I just always like the idea of like the before and the after and how people felt was like the
right.
part. Yeah.
Definitely how people feel after makeovers is probably like the best part for them.
Yeah. Well, for myself too, like that's like them seeing the joy was like always the excitement for me.
Right. So growing up, did you always know kind of what you wanted to be, or what your road would be, what your journey would be?
You know, growing up, not many people know this, like some do, some don't. I was a pageant girl. My mom had me in pageants from 14 to 21.
No, this makes perfect sense. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. So I was a pageant girl. I was trained in every aspect in interviewing and TV and all of that stuff. And I naturally, because of that, I wanted to be a broadcaster, either entertainment or sports broadcasting. So I was actually going to school for that. So I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
All the way up, you know, up until I was in college. I got an AA in communications with a minor in broadcasting. But I didn't finish school because, you know, I was 21. I moved out of my parents' house and you got to live and pay your rent.
Right.
So
bills come knocking.
bills are real. I chose the big girl life. So I never finished school like fully. All I needed to do was transfer. I needed a math class to transfer and I didn't. And I know my mom till this day is probably like,
broke her heart.
Oh, my mom's so heartbroken over it. You know, she thought that I would be, you know, not that I was going to set the example because I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
So I didn't. And I always kind of lived life by my rules and not anybody else's. So, you know, here we are. But yeah, so it's kind of funny, full circle.
Full circle, right?
Yeah. Like this is something always that I wanted to do. I would always interview people. Like I'd always ask so many questions when I was a kid, and they would come. Actually, my grandma would call me Perico because I would be like, you know, asking everybody questions and just, you know, I like to talk. But yeah, so now it's like life is kind of full circle because now I'm kind of doing it on my own terms, in a whole different realm and spectrum.
Right.
Really cool because I mean back then this didn't exist. Podcast didn't exist. Right?
Yeah, and how times are, right, where things phase out and change, kind of like, you know, I mean, obviously a radio, but kind of the old radios that we had were like cassette CDs,
Right.
you know, those are things of the past. We do Bluetooth speakers in our phones or whatever now, you know.
Yeah.
So broadcasting maybe even, you know, had you had fully, you know, just stayed on that path of broadcasting, you know, it probably wouldn't even be what it is today because podcasting is just so different. It's so direct to consumer. It's so so we make it now, we put it out tomorrow. Like it's literally that's how it goes, you know.
It's like hotcakes, literally.
Right. So that's funny, full circle that all that comes around, broadcasting to podcasting, and now here we are, you know, and again, it all started from that idea, that lunch of just putting this out there, and here we are, you know. So you said, you know, you didn't finish school. Looking back, was there any advice you'd give your younger self? Wouldn't say regrets, but was there something you'd do over?
No, I would not do anything over. I think I've always been not a worry word, because that's not it. I've been a little more of a free spirit, but I've always been a perfectionist. and I've always been a creative. And I wish I would have just done things when I like not second guess myself, get step beside the perfectionism and how things are supposed to look and or be, and just do. I think if I would have done a lot of things like that, like when it comes to like anything else that I want to do, I just do it, right? Like travel or type of things. But when it comes to like business, or when it comes to, I think creative, like I'm my eye
perfectionist.
I'm a perfectionist, and I think it's a gift and a curse, right? But there's also that saying, like there's always a right time. There's no right time and there's no wrong time, So, and timing is everything. So, I mean, could I tell my younger self, I guess, not to worry and go with the flow and not try to be perfect? Those are the things that I would really tell my younger self, like just live, do what you can, to continue to go after what you have to do, and really just stop concentrating on being perfect,
Right.
I think that stops a lot of us in general.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, when you're a creative and then you're using your creative side to come up with something that is then a business, it's hard to do both. It's not easy to do. Right. And then you take on a lot of hats, and at that point then it starts to suck the creative juice out of you, which then just takes the whole fun out of all of it, and then you start to look at it differently. And so I feel you on that one. Yeah. I'm sometimes stuck there too. Obviously, I've been in the art for a long time. Since I was younger, been drawing, been doing, artistic type stuff. At one point thought I was cool as a graffiti writer, so, and I also make music. And so, yeah, that definitely is the toughest part for us as creators. And it's actually why I've continued to tell you, like, let's just do it. Let's just put it out. Let's just, you know what I mean? Because I know in your head, what you're going through is the same thing I go through when I make songs. And I'm like, do I want to put it out? What are people going to think? What are they going to say? It gets tough. And then once you let that sink in even just a little bit, it starts to suck the creativeness out of it. So, so I'm definitely glad that we're here in this moment.
Yeah, like literally I'm in my dining room table and I have this whole like set up beautiful thing that I'm doing for the podcast. But honestly, I was just like, let's just do it. Whatever.
Yeah, let's get the ball rolling. It'll be cool for everybody to see the transition too, and episode 1 to episode, such and such. And
honestly, you become a mom or a parent, and I think you also like the little things in life that used to really like be like, you just
let them go
out the window.
Right.
I just had to feed my kid before I started this. You know what I mean? Like, point, so I'm like
mommy life, mommy uncut life.
Yeah, for real.
And so after college, right? So, and I'm trying to keep a timeline of, because I obviously go back. So I had to sit and even think of some of, your bullet points in your life, because it's just been such, a long time. I mean, we're talking a friendship of 20 years plus,
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot, and so after college, right, this is about the time that I have my kids around the time, right? And so you were away at college, I was away doing some crazy stuff, I'm sure, at that time, and then involved with my kids and everything coming, right? So there was a little bit of a gap in our friendship around this time.
Right.
But help fill me in here at this point. So after college and realizing you're not going to go through with it, being a little badass and saying I'm a bet on myself and not finish this up, you you get a job at Tradition inside the Beverly Center. And then a couple years after that, then you end up working at a plastic surgeon's office as well, right?
Yep.
How vital and how pivotal were these two jobs for you looking back now?
Oh my God. Extreme.
Especially, I say this especially because the job, the positions that you had in the jobs, right, are like kind of like
polar opposite.
yeah, but also like I find this thing, and like sometimes we don't realize that some of the jobs that we have help shape us for
Mhm.
some of the better, our better selves later, or a better role later.
Mhm.
So looking back, maybe these were something that you kind of just took, or was kind of the situation that was given to you, right?
Mhm.
But now looking back, like how important were those two jobs for you?
Incredibly important. And I'm going to start by saying I always kind of, through college, I always worked retail. I started at Forever 21, and then from Forever 21 I was at American Eagle, and then at American Eagle I was a handbag specialist at Nordstrom for like a couple years.
Damn.
Yeah, I was at Nordstrom
Jeez.
for like three and a half years.
Mhm.
Um, and then my mom made me quit to like focus on school and get a bank job. Worst decision of my life. Um, and then this is me while like I'm working at the bank, and then I'm like decide to leave my job. I mean, move out of my house.
School.
No,
Oh,
leave out of my
gotcha.
mom's house. Yeah, and I was also actually working at Mac as a freelance makeup artist. So a lot of people don't know, but I'm also a makeup artist. I went to school when I was 19. I had won a pageant, and I got a scholarship to makeup school. So I always loved to do makeup. I did all my makeup through pageants and all that stuff. So I literally was hoping that they would hire me full time at Mac, because I was moving out of my parents, and they only had like a part-time freelance. So I was working at the bank, and I got fired at the bank. Um, First job that I've ever been fired at, but they were all haters.
So you got fired because you weren't doing good, or?
No, because I left my keys from my drawer in my at home. I literally lived 5 minutes down the street. I left and I came back. I was still on time, but they just wrote me up, and I was like,
Peace.
peace in the Middle East. So anyway, I was like, damn, what am I gonna do? I'd already moved out. What the fuck am I gonna do? Right. So and I could never tell my mom that I got fired. Sorry, mom. I don't think I've ever told you that.
Yes, I love it.
Shit. Anyway, I happened to go out that weekend, right? It was a Sunday. And for those of you who are from LA and are familiar with Red Cup, I was at Red Cup. Might have been a
Hey,
little
Red Cup Sundays.
Red Cup Sundays. I
Take a
might have
drink
been
for
a
Red
little
Cup
tipsy.
Sundays.
I might have been a little tipsy. And I ran
There
into
might have been some good in my drink.
might have been having a good time. I don't know. You know, I did just lose my job. Let's go have fun.
Why not?
Why not? So I run into Jason. Jason was a good friend of ours, and he always had a store in Thousand Oaks area. And I knew that he was like looking to open at the Beverly Center, but we hadn't seen him in a while. So I actually ran into Jason at Red Cup. Jason actually lived across the street in the building across the street. So he would just walk over and hang out, right? So
You just go walk the dog at Red Cup.
yeah, literally chill at Red Cup, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna go see what's up there, you know? And I'm for sure drunk. And I'm like, oh my God. He's telling me that he's opening. He's like, yo, you know, I'm opening the store at the Beverly Center. And I'm like, for sure drunk. Like, you have to hire me. Like, he's like, what? You need a job? And I was like, yeah. He's like, do you even have retail experience? I was like, of course I do. I used to run Nordstrom. Like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, all right, cool. Like, we'll do lunch tomorrow. And of course, like, I didn't think he was like being serious because I was also drunk, and I didn't even think he remembered because I didn't know if he was drunk, you know.
Right.
Little to find out he didn't drink at the time. So whatever. So the next day he calls me and he's like, yo, like, you down to do lunch? And I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, you know, so we end up meeting up, and we end up having a meeting, had a lunch meeting. And, you know, I was just kind of explaining myself and what my experience was and that type of thing. And he needed someone to run and manage his store. And I was like, I'm your girl. So then, yeah, that following weekend, we're at Magic buying the merchandise for the store. And then that was it. Like, wow. The following 2.5 years were wild. Like, I I thank him a lot because he gave me full reins. So I was able to learn how to run a business at a big boxtail retail style, mall. The Beverly Center is huge. So being able to run a store, it's not like a little boutique, like we're in a mall, so
Right.
It's a little different.
Right.
So being able to kind of take the full reins and do everything from merchandising to buying to staffing to, books, you name it, kind of just taught me all around about the business.
Right.
So I was just well versed at that time. And at this time, I think I'm like 21, like literally, I'm a kid at this point.
Yeah.
I have a huge responsibility, but I'm the type of person that I lived, eat, ate, breathed tradition. I was Kristine tradition. So for those of you who know me from back then, you know that I was Kristine tradition. On all my socials, like if people still have me on their phone as Kristine tradition, like they literally thought that was my last name. And I'm like, no, that was just me. Like that was me. I actually made everyone who worked in the store change their handle from Instagram to so-and-so tradition for marketing purposes. And, actually, ironically, like I was able and had the opportunity to work with so many people, so many musicians, so many athletes, everybody. I mean, everybody, if you knew what that
everybody goes to the Beverly Center, right?
Everyone goes to the Beverly Center. Everyone shops there. Like literally some of my like closest clients were people that you would probably never even think of. And I'm 22, 20, like between 21 and 23 at that time, like to have that network and that connection with people at that level is crazy, and so the whole styling happened because I started their styling program there. Because everyone else's stylists were coming in, they're like, do you do pulls? And we're like, no, and then at some point I was like, well, we have to do it. So, I started putting in play like a styling program. So for stylists to come and pull for their clients.
Right.
And that's a point where these girls were calling me like, oh, what do you have new? Can you put, stuff aside for so-and-so and so-and-so, right? Cool. I would literally put outfits together for all of them. They would come and be like, yep, take everything. And then I see the artist or the athlete wearing the outfit that I picked out that they get the credit for. But I didn't care at that time because I was like, cool, I made my sale. Like,
right. You did your role.
I did my role. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just literally doing what I do. You know what I mean?
You were just getting the job done.
I was getting the job done. And it's what I like to do anyway. So it wasn't like, I didn't think further than that, or that was going to be my job, or that I could be that. Like that was not even.
Or how this skill set that you were going to learn at this job that maybe was just a quick, was supposed to just be a quick get you by, right?
Yeah.
Turned into a full-on opening of the eye.
Yeah. Like I had no, like, it was not even in
your atmosphere.
In the atmosphere at that point.
Right.
So, fast forward 2.5 years later, I'm like at the point where, you want to grow. I'm always like, I'm not a stagnant person. I have to continue to grow. I have to do more. Like this is I did what I had to do. Now, like what's next? I'm always like, next. And at the time, like they were just not ready to grow for me. Like there was just my room for growth was no longer, like they just weren't ready for me there at that point.
Right.
So it was so hard for me. Like I didn't want to leave the store. The store was like my baby.
Yeah, it was like family too. Everybody you worked with.
Family, and it's just, but like unknowingly, I ended up going to a friend's birthday party in Rosarito, and I ended up running into a mutual friend who she worked at a facial plastic for years. And we're catching up, and she's like, hey, how's the store? I'm like, oh, it's going great, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, so, hey, just so like we're hiring. So if you know of anybody, like we're hiring full time. And I was like, I'm like, I might be interested. She's
let me check this out.
I was like, And then she was like, no, like you'd never leave the store. And I'm like, no, but I'm kind of like been looking without really looking. So like, I'm down just to interview and see what it's about.
Right.
All right. So I literally interviewed the following week and I got hired.
Wow.
And I didn't think I was going to not that I didn't think I was going to get hired, but I was just like, oh shit. Like I still have the store. Like I can't leave the store. You know what I mean? I have to find somebody to replace me.
Right.
So I literally removed myself from the schedule during the day, and I only scheduled myself 6 p.m. as soon as I got out of there, because it was literally 3 miles. The doctor's office from the store was 3 miles away. So I
Right.
leave the doctor's office at 6, get to the store at 6:30 till 11, that I would close to do all my extra stuff that I was doing for the store every day. I didn't leave the store till a year after, or like 8 months after. And then I would work Saturdays all day. So I only have Sundays off. I worked like a slave.
Thugging, grinding.
But you know what? I worked like a slave. I would still go out and party. And
that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time.
But and I would still show up to work, and
stay tuned for that episode. We got that coming.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing. But so now I'm at the doctor's, and for me it's I'm at the boss at one, and at the other one I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. So it was a culture shock completely.
Right. You went from knowing what you were doing to what the hell is going on here?
And then you're with patients, so like someone's calling like that they're bleeding out or something. I'm freaking out because I don't know what to tell you. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, like please hold, let me I'll give me a second, like let me see if the doctor's available, let me see how to diffuse the situation. Right. Oh my god, the first couple months were so scary. Jesus Christ. And I'm not like a blood person, needles, Christ, and he does injectables, and he would
went to the worst place.
Yeah, and he would make me be in the room with him, like hand him like the injectables and stuff and the fillers and like things like that. And I'm just like, I'm in there like
about to pass out.
He would tell me a couple times, like he was like, "You good? Like you good?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm great." And I'm in there, and he was just like looking at me, like laughing inside, like, "Oh my god, he's probably like this girl, man." But I loved it. I grew to love it. I learned so much, like to the point where I learned how to draw blood. When in the world was I ever going to draw blood? Right. So like I learned how to do that. But I became I'm the type that no task is impossible.
Too tall.
Yeah. So I learned it all, and come to find out, later on in life, it helped because my grandfather got a kidney transplant. So I took full care, and I basically, you're fine. I was able to kind of take that on a little bit better and know terminology and know things that I wouldn't have otherwise. I wouldn't know the proper questions to ask. I was familiar with medications and names and things like that really helped the process, So I thought that was really interesting, how life again brought me back full circle. Even though I was only there 2.5 years. And even there at that 2.5 year mark, I hit like okay, I'm done. Like, this is over. Like, this was cool, but it's not for me, I'm not doing what I love. Although it was good, I was making great money, and then I'm stuck in traffic. I was driving.
Oh yeah.
Like I was driving like 3 hours a day just to get to and from work. Like that's just insane.
And if you're from LA, driving from the heart, like Beverly Hills, down to Beverly Hills there. Yeah, all in that area, all the way to the outskirts.
Terrible. Yeah. So I called my mom crying one day, and I said, "I'm done. I'm quitting my job." And she said, "You're fucking crazy." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not happy. So I don't care what you say. I'm gonna."
You and your mom have had a couple of these moments, huh?
Oh, all the time. Like all the time. She's just, but I call her and tell her everything anyway. So
right. It's just how it works.
It's just how it works. And she was like, I mean, you're going to do what you want anyway. And I'm like, I'm asking for your support. I'm not telling you what to tell me to do. I'm asking for your support. And I quit my job. But I had, I never just leave like.
Yeah. You had side gigs or side hustles.
Well, I've always had side hustles. So just as my parents are in the real estate, mortgage, and insurance industry. So I always backed myself with something to kind of back up on. I've been a notary since I was 18. So I was able to kind of do that and get some money going always.
Right.
Always had multiple
Keep money flowing.
income. Yeah, because that's just how I was taught.
Yeah.
But no, I actually had money saved up. And I opened my own online store, and I just decided to take the leap of faith and do me and go self-employed. And I've been self-employed going on 6 years. Somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow.
That's awesome.
Somehow
That's
I've
fucking
been able to do it on my own, figuring it out one
Right.
at a time. Stressful, but
Right.
worth it.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So really quick, I started an online store, and that was cool. I liked it, but it was fast fashion. And meanwhile, I had ran the online store for tradition. It was just totally different. The buying was totally different. The competition at the time was really like, if you didn't have a huge following on Instagram, you weren't getting sales, and everybody was wearing this, like buying from the same vendor. And we're back, guys. I'm a bit of a rookie, and I didn't plug in my computer, and it died. And then we were praying that it saved, and it had to convert. But it saved.
Rookie mistakes.
Rookie mistakes. It's okay. We're good, but we're back. So we were talking about my transition from the doctor's office to opening my own online store. So back to what I was saying, at that time, it was just a lot of competition going on. If you didn't have a big following, everybody was buying from the same merchants and vendors. And it just was kind of hard to do a footprint. And then, I was self-funded, and I was using my savings and, trying to live.
Living, right? Because that's its own set amount of money just to live.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that was
outside's like $500 anytime you step outside. So
true. So for me, I kind of was, money was running low, and I was just like, all right, like this wasn't it.
I should have listened to mom.
No. No. But, at that point I was like, man, what am I going to do? Like, this wasn't it. Like this, it's not that I couldn't do it. It's just that that wasn't it. It just wasn't it. It just, in my heart, I knew it wasn't it. So I'm praying, and I promise you, like 3 days later, I get a phone call from a good friend of mine again, who I met through tradition at some given point. And she's
look at how life just lines things up, right?
Yeah. So she's letting me know that they had just signed an artist, and if I knew of any upcoming stylists, they were trying to build her team, the artist's team. And I was like, I hear me. And she was like, you? Like, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, put some clothes on her from your store? I go, I mean, I guess if she likes anything from the store, but no, like, I'm like, no, but I could do it. She's like, what do you mean you can do it? I'm like, look, I used to do it for the store. I used to do it for all the stylists. They used to come pick up literally outfits from me, put them on the, artists, athletes, and then take credit for it. Why couldn't I do the same thing? And she's like, all right, like, let me just put you in contact with them, and then we'll see from there. And then, I met with them, and that following weekend, I had actually designed stuff for her to wear, and she opened up for an artist, and the rest was history.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. So then that, I was able to do really cool things. I had, just clients after that, just lined up after that, but she was my primary client for a while because we were on a momentum, and we were on tour. I did a lot of cool shit,
Right.
And I'm so happy that I was able to live that life at that age and at that time, because I definitely couldn't do it now that I have a family,
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
And that was for a couple of years as well, like 2 years, 3 years, or how long was it that you really gave it a full run?
Full run with her in particular. I think it was 3 years. 3. Yeah, I want to say 3.
Got you.
Yeah, probably maybe a little longer, but and then I started building my clients too in between that. So yeah, man. And then I meet this guy who actually Jason, the owner of Tradition, sets me up with. Ironic.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not like a setup, but it was a setup. But we'll leave that story for another podcast, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then shit went fast, and then I became Mommy Uncut without knowing I was Mommy Uncut. Yeah, so shit. Now I'm like living in a whole other state. I'm in Oklahoma with a 1-year-old and pregnant with my
Baby number 2.
girl, my baby girl.
How does that feel?
Oh man. Well, I mean, if you saw my first video vlog introduction, you could clearly tell I was excited. I mean, not that I wasn't excited for Noah. Like that's not it. I think we're also just more settled. We bought a home, so we're in a home. When we found out we were pregnant, we weren't living together just yet. So
there was a lot more unknowns then.
A lot of more unknowns, and then now, and then also too, like we both always wanted a girl. We actually were hoping Noah was a girl.
Noah's gonna hear this later on and be like,
no, but it's okay because I love my son so much. You have no idea. Like I'm so grateful for him. But I think this time around, I just genuinely thought I was having a boy. I just, I did. I didn't, I don't know why. I just thought I did. And the thought of having a girl was just like, I didn't want to get in my head. I think that's what it was, that I didn't want to like get excited and then be like, like, no. So I guess in my head, I kind of convinced myself that I was having a boy. So when I had you guys all on FaceTime, and when I read, I was like, it was in shock. I was literally in shock, crying for like 2 days, I think, because like I guess I had truly mentally convinced myself I was having a boy. So, which it wasn't either or. A healthy baby is what we always, strive for, and, they're blessings. So that in itself, but like us, we talk about all the time, we, in the life that we're living, especially through COVID and all this stuff, like we really only want to have 2 kids. That's just selfishly for us, for what we want to do, for business purposes, for traveling. It's just easier to navigate life with just 2 kids and be able to give our full attention to our kids, both of them, and equally, and not spread ourselves thin, and I know I'm one of 4, and I know what that's like, as a parent.
Right.
So, well, as a daughter of a parent who,
I got you.
So, and I was like, well, we're just gonna have 2. So the thought of like maybe not having a girl was like, because I just mentioned like how special my mom and my relationship is. So I knew that I always wanted that, and I always wanted sisters, and I never did, and I never had any. So like, I wanted that for myself, and I guess I had convinced myself that wasn't going to happen. So now that it is, it's a whole other ball game. But.
And that's something I think that is so dope and unique about this podcast, is that the idea was put into the air when Noah was in the oven, and here we are full circle again, and now you're pregnant doing a podcast. So I mean, I'm sure in this season we're gonna see the levels of craziness from you being pregnant. We're we're gonna be able to see all that through the pregnancy as this goes on. So
I'm
I
definitely
think
more
that's so dope
emotional this pregnancy.
Really.
Yeah. Like I cry.
How about sickness wise too? Same thing, more.
I literally got over, I'm just now at my second trimester, and I was sick the entire time, the first 3 months. Like indigestion, nausea, all day, every day. She's making me work for it. You wanted a
Querías.
girl.
Querías.
Oh my gosh, she's already gonna be just.
She gonna be your daughter.
Exactly. Oh man.
No. So I mean, to kind of give a a little bit of what's to come,
Mm-hmm.
what's your reason for doing, this podcast, and what do you envision giving us, the people?
Man, I'm so excited because I've always built brands for other people. So styling for me, like I wasn't just putting clothes on you. I was building your brand and who you are, right? So
Right. Fitting for you.
yeah, when I saw styling, I saw it as a personal brand and how to do that for you. And that's how I approach my clients. So I did it for everybody else. I mean, I did it for tradition. I did it for even the doctor. Like I got him on the doctor show, and then he like went on to have multiple series on the doctor show for
Wow.
himself and build a brand for himself. More than even at that. Now he's like up here. Before he
It was
just
building.
it was building. And I think now I'm able to really identify myself as a brand with Mommy Uncut. And that's the beautiful thing because I've never been able to really do that for myself, become a brand.
Right.
That is authentically myself. And I never like now that I'm able to see that through, it's exciting to just be myself and build a brand around myself, my family, and the things that I love to do, and the businesses that we have in the works and stuff that's going on that we'll share as we go on. But Mommy and Cut is just so much more. More than a podcast. We may be working on a book. I can't tell you what kind of book, but we may be working on a book, merch. So, I like to design. So of course, this is one of my first designs and campaign, More Than a Mom.
So dope.
Yeah. So it's empowering. And yeah, I think More Than a Mom for me, when you become a mom, I think you lose sense of identity, and not in a negative way, but you're no longer that person you were before you were a parent. And and you become this new person, and you kind of battle yourself with the person you were before
And who you're becoming.
Who you are. And
Right.
a lot of the time, especially I think for women, I did experience some postpartum depression and things of that nature that and then everything happened so fast, and just in life in general for me, how it always does, that I just wasn't able to grasp who I was and what I was anymore,
Right.
other than just living, breathing, eating for my child and a significant other. And I kind of, you do lose yourself, and not in a way that like you're just learning the new, no, not in a bad way. You just, you're learning.
No, you just can't go back to the person you were.
There's no
before.
way.
You can't, because you didn't have to think for somebody else, or let alone your partner, and now a kid as well, which a kid is just so reliant on parents, right?
I mean, it's just, so I think that's a big topic, identity for women. Becoming a mom is a new identity. So More Than a Mom for me is really a campaign for empowerment. You're more than just a mom. You're, I mean, the list goes on,
Right. No, the job titles that mom has is crazy.
It's like
the resume's stacked.
Yeah, it's like, this is the top, it's the umbrella, the top, and then just everything trickles down. So, me really running with More Than a Mom is so important for me, because
there's so many more topics that go into that and that I do want to talk about and interview people about, because it is important. Mental health is a really, really big topic that I want to focus on also. And More Than a Mom is empowering for that. So
I love it.
yeah, I'm really excited for this campaign and launch. And then of course, just normal merch and stuff that we want to do. And man, I mean, I think the sky's the limit. I think this is really giving me a platform to do everything that I've wanted to do and create. And I think just creating is where I'm happy. And that's what I'm going to do. Whatever idea comes to mind, I'm going to make it happen with Mommy Uncut, because it's really true to me and who I am. So that's really where I want to go with it, you know? And the fact that like, I made this myself, my two little hands, I made this, you know? So I didn't go to or ship it to a factory, or I sourced my own blank. I bought myself the Cricut. I bought myself a heat press machine. And I literally did this like a couple hours ago.
Right.
Like the concept and everything was already there, but like I just printed it today.
Right.
So, you know, when I release these, which I'm planning to do so this week, they'll be available for purchase. Like, just remember, like, it's coming from me. It's not, you're not getting it from an outsource, you know, it's really coming from my own hands. And I think that's even more special.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially being, you know, being involved in every aspect of it as well is a great thing in itself. You have the control. It's your brand. Like you said, it's your brand. So you have the full control now to fully, you know, build your brand. So, I mean, really for me, I mean, that's kind of, for the most part, I think a good broad range of who you are. I mean, of course, there's millions of stories we could go on and on and on. But just to give, you know, the people a little bit of a background of who you are, and, you know, what is to come with Mommy Uncut. Like I said, I've been knowing about this, so I'm excited. But I know it's going to be exciting to see all of this play out, and I'm excited for the guests that you're going to have on, those interactions. I'm excited for the conversations, the rawness, the uncut, you know, all of that that's to come. I'm really looking forward to every episode. I'm locked in, obviously. I'm your friend. I'm subscribed. I'm tuned in. But besides that, it's just great content, and I can't wait for the people to see those moments that I'm sitting there eating my damn bread at this Peruvian spot, and just whole breast just pops out, and these conversations that happen. I want them to be documented so people can see them, and it'd be
Flesh,
like
and
just
soul
as
in
much
her
fun.
titty.
I'm trying to keep it G-rated, you know. I got my kids running around somewhere, so you know, just trying to keep it G-rated. But yeah, I'm excited, and I'm glad we're here. I'm super excited for you. I'm proud of you. And again, thank you for having me on. I hope I executed what we were trying to do. And
No,
I think
you more than executed. And I think you got out of me a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have just like said out loud.
Right. And I think that was what was the point of it, was to
yeah, that's what I wanted. I really wanted to have someone interview me that knew me in ways that could ask these questions, that would get the intimate side of me out. And I think we really accomplished that. So thank you so much for that. And I appreciate you, and have a good night. Enjoy your drink. I obviously can't, so I'm over here drinking my
I think the doctor said you could have one glass of wine, but that's not for me to decide.
Not right now. But honest brand kids, you know, the kids drinks, we like them. So if you want to like send some over.
Hey, if you want your logo in the corner,
like I you could sponsor.
Let us know. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about moms, and that's about kids. So, perfect marriage.
Let's go, but hit me, girl. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and then hit the notification button too if you want to keep updated when I do drop these videos and podcasts. Thank you guys so much again for your support. I couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you.
Peace.